search and sorrow. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It's time to honor those erased from her story. It's time to rise and take our place. In this moment, we won't be erased. Time to rise, time to rise. Stand in our power today.
Welcome to our Kitchen Table Talks, a podcast of the Public Engagement Initiative Suffrage Race Power, Black Women Unerased. I'm Gwen McKinney, creator of SRP Unerased. The next 3 episodes, we'll host virtual dinner parties featuring recording gems from previous shows that landed on the cutting room floor. We add some new spice with intergenerational dialogue hosted by the multi-talented Howard University professor, audio engineer, and artist Carolyn Malachi. This episode features insights from economist and author Julianne Malveaux and Glynda Carr, Executive Director of Higher Heights for America. Come on in and grab a seat at our kitchen table.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Malachi. Welcome to a virtual dinner party with me and my best girls. Meet my Aunt Karen.
Come in and make yourself comfortable, because this is home.
My sister Kiera.
Put them cups you bought us up on the shelf. You know, we gonna use these nice plastic ones, but thank you.
And my grandmother, Gladys.
No. You must understand you have your grandmother as part of this, and your grandmother does not use plastic.
No, she does not. With the opening of a fine wine, I played for my esteemed dinner guests a few excerpts from previously recorded SRP Unerased episodes. We began with these comments from Dr. Julianne Malveaux, who shared her perspective on the engagement of younger people in politics.
I think if you look at the 2016 election, you saw some hesitation among younger people to get involved. Mm-hmm. I had a young woman tell me she wasn't good, here's what she told me. Old itches like me were going to cause Trump to be elected because we wouldn't go with Bernie.
I really appreciate your restraint, but I don't think that I would have been able to do that. The mouth it came out of is a mouth it'll go back in.
Okay? Mm-hmm. I just put my hands up because, I don't believe in cursing children out. So I just put my hands up like, okay, honey. Then we get Gorsuch, and she calls me. Doc, we have Gorsuch. What are we going to do? I said, don't ask me what you're going to do because you didn't vote. Then she voted for Jill Stein, which is not voting. Then we got Kavanaugh, and she called me this time in tears. What are we going to do about our abortion rights? I said, baby girl, I'm over 60. I don't have abortion rights. So it was an interesting conversation because we're coming at it different. She cared about abortion, but she didn't care enough about it to vote for Hillary, who would have put someone who was certainly pro-abortion on the Supreme Court. I think we have to have more conversations about what is the importance of voting. I think the younger generation got spoiled by Obama. Many people who, Obama came in 2008, so now we're looking at 12 years later. So you have some people who, they never had an idiot for president. And they had a responsive man that they could basically relate to in President Obama. And because we had that, I don't think that some young people understand the nature of political compromise.
Kiera spoke up first.
We can't connect. A lot of it has to do with, just being taught to care about the collective. And I think a lot of my generation is missing that. And I don't think the collective, the understanding that we are a collective, like Trayvon Martin dying, that was my brother dying, so on and so forth. I don't think we noticed that until we started seeing it on our social media platforms, and it was every day. Whereas our parents and our grandparents, saw what happened in Alabama on the TV, and they were the ones marching, and they were doing that. When we don't live that day to day, we lose the understanding that this is serious. We lose the groupthink. We become desensitized, and then until it starts happening every single day, we don't really care.
Aunt Karen said,
My mother's generation's whole goal was to make sure that we had access to education and we had access to things that our grandparents did not have access to. And I think we became so individual in focus. I'm going to get my degrees. I'm going to get my house. I'm going to get my car. And the generation that came after us heard, I'm going to get my, and I'm going to get my. And even though we came through the civil rights movement, meaning my generation, we were the people that really benefited from the marches as far as doors starting to open. And I really think by focusing so much on my and getting my, that there's a break in a whole generation's remembering it. It's not my, it's us. If we don't move as a group, we won't move.
There's always one at the dinner table with their phone on. On at the dinner table.
It was not my phone. It was my Apple Watch. I am so sorry. I do apologize.
It's
I
always
really do. I do apologize.
My mama didn't let me have technology at the dinner table, so I don't understand where this is coming from.
I couldn't even listen to headphones in the car.
Nothing.
No, because your grandmother either, because you had to be talking to me and part of what the conversation was. How are you going to be part of the conversation when you're over there with your head down and looking at a phone?
And that's part of being part of the group. Yeah. People didn't grow up like that. People didn't have the understanding. But I think it comes down to, our parents worked a lot. And thank God, we had a village to pick up, in places where they might have left off because they were working so much. But, while y'all were gotta get, there was a gap where there was no education. And I think, that shows itself when it comes to voting and caring about things that you guys think we should just care about automatically because we're Black and we should know it.
Next, I played comments from Glynda Carr, who told us why, when it comes to voting for either a woman candidate or a pro-woman candidate, Black women tend to overperform. Others, not so much.
So the question becomes, why is it that we overperform at the voting booth and white women either choose to vote against their best interest at the voting booth or sit it out? And so if we're going to have a true democracy, it's about ensuring that all of our neighbors, Black, white, male or female, understand the importance of participating in the voting process. As it relates to many of the voter suppression laws that have been passed over the last 5 years, Black women continue to do what we've been doing, which is we don't go to the polls alone. We bring our house, our block, our church, our sorority, and our union. That is the tradition that I grew up in. My great-grandmother was born in 1895 and died shy of her 100th birthday. I lived with two generations of women that didn't have a right to vote for the bulk of their life. And so for them, it was very important and instilled in my brothers and I, the importance of using our civic voices and the ability to vote. And that's the traditions of what Black women have done in our communities and in our homes. Frankly, we are demanding our return on our voting investment. And that's in the form of policies that directly impact Black women and frankly, claiming our seats at decision-making tables.
So I asked my grandmother if she felt that she's always had a seat at the voting table.
I was always able to vote, meaning that I voted for the local candidates, within the District of Columbia. And I was always very much a part of that. We could vote here in the district. It was the mayor, Walter Washington, and on up and up and up. And so we were always available for that. But I think around about, let's see, say maybe in 1956 or something like that. I remember that was my first time really voting on the for the president or whatever was going on at that time. So I've always been able to vote. Now, Nunny, no, my mother wasn't always able to vote. She was born in 1922. And I think something like really white women got the right to vote. And see, I don't remember dates and things. But however, we didn't have the right to vote. We had to fight further. And I think it's after the 50s or something like that that we got the right to vote.
And then my sister said,
well, white women got the right to vote because of us. And that's just,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
they got
and
it, and then they left us behind, like they do with every
that's
movement they
behind.
have.
Yes,
they call us
did,
for help,
they did.
and then they abandon
And then
us.
they did. That's the truth. That's just exactly what happened.
Aunt Karen shared her thoughts.
I grew up in D.C. when it was Chocolate City, so I remember being very much empowered. I remember Mayor Washington. In fact, it's based on my memory. I remember black mayors. I remember black city council people. I remember Mayor Berry and just turning this city around. So I've always felt empowered in local politics. It was the national politics. And growing up in D.C., taxation without representation that's where we did not have power. That was our disenfranchisement, and that still is our disenfranchisement.
As a DC native and as a millennial, I see a lot of people making binary voting decisions. Either a candidate is perfect and worth our vote, or they're not. So I played a clip of Dr. Malveaux speaking directly to this issue.
When you see a candidate, you want to take a blood test. Just like when you have a child and you don't know who the daddy is, you want to take a blood test. Sometimes the blood test comes out at 99.9% sure. Sometimes it comes out 75% sure. Sometimes it might come out 25% sure. Well, that's not your kid. But the 99 or even the 75 suggests that you're in the same camp. So when you look at somebody as a candidate, they're not going to be a perfect match because nobody is. But are you in the same camp? What the most important issues for Black women are around economics, pay equity, around family issues, family and work issues such as childcare. Again, affordable childcare, not just childcare, affordable childcare, flexible hours. We want to make sure people have health care, sick leave. And those are the things that are important to women and especially to Black women, because more of us are at the lower end of the wage distribution. So those things become paramount.
I think my generation, when it came time for that Hillary and Trump situation, I really feel like they were right. Like she said, I think a lot of us were riding the high of Obama. And we were like, the nation has to have common sense at this point. So you don't need us. We know they're voting Hillary.
I marveled at my sister's optimism.
And so we didn't show up. And then here came Trump. And then a lot of white women voted for Trump because they would rather vote for this man because he looks like their husbands and their fathers and their sons who don't know how to treat women and don't know how to treat Black people. And they would rather vote for him than to vote for this woman.
My grandmother weighed in.
It was. I thought it was very interesting what she said, and it's just funny how my generation or generations can't understand. The older folks are, we can't understand why these young people think like they do now. Well, they think like they do now because they're in a whole different environment than we were in. We've got to understand that that's how they think and that's how they relate to it. Now, if we want them to understand what it is that we know about what has gone on in the past, then we got to hope that we can talk to them in order for them to listen to what has transpired. But as we always know, even when you were younger, you understood how you felt and how strongly you felt about things. And when the older people would come and say something to you, you think you know it all. So you got to understand the difference in the generations and how they think. We are the ones that we would say you take the lesser of the two evils. So we were always able to make that compromise. Maybe Hillary didn't have everything that I would want her to have. However, it would behoove me to vote for Hillary to understand what it means for my future.
We understand the value of voting, but it's quite difficult to be encouraged about voting when others work so hard to create systematic roadblocks. So I played these comments from Glynda Carr.
I mean, we're living in some of the most politically toxic and racially divisive times of my generation. And, Barack Obama, or frankly, I guess we can also say President Bill Clinton were exceptions to the rules in the 20th and 21st century, right? They're, two examples of men who ran younger. And obviously with Barack Obama, a man of color who ran and created the energy and excitement, frankly. And so the question is, how do we rebuild that? And that is what I think we were looking to rebuild in 2020 on the Democratic side, was that energy and that excitement. We had the largest diverse field of candidates in 2021. At the end of the day, that question around electability and electability in a politically toxic and racially divisive times created an environment where people felt that they were going to vote for, as you saw all the coverage, looking for someone that could win a winning ticket. And that's where all the cultural and gender biases started coming in about, well, what does winnable look like?
And those words prompted an interesting exchange between my sister, my grandmother, and my aunt.
Knowing how the world works, and the world's view of black women, does a black woman make a winnable candidate? Not based on your feelings, based on the reality of our world, how black women are viewed by black men and by black women, as well as, other races.
Well, did she do it?
No, she did not. She's the vice president. Does a black woman make a winnable presidential
yes.
candidate?
Oh, yes. Think about Shirley Chisholm. They thought she had the audacity to even try to run for president. But she ran for president. But okay, she put that right there on everybody's mind. It can be done, right? Well, Kamala Harris, they literally tried to do everything to diminish her. Did you notice that they couldn't do it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just couldn't do it. They tried everything. Well, we got somebody else that's there that's going to be president of the United States of America. So it'll happen. Because you see that it can happen. So yes,
time.
I think it will happen.
When it was Barack and Hillary, and through the primaries and everything, I always said we're going to learn what America dislikes the most. Is it going to be women or our blackness? Okay? And what won was a male. I do think Hillary being a woman has a lot to do with her laws.
And now we've got Vice President Kamala Harris.
It was her blackness and the fact that she was a woman that was an asset. It was the sororities. It was the fraternities. It was the usher board at church. It was the sisterhood. Everybody came out to make it happen. And yes, I think it can happen for a black woman as president.
With that, we toasted the vision of a black woman president.
Cheers.
May her rise be swift. Please join our next dinner party when we continue the conversation about Black women's political power, intersectionality, and gender identity. Before we close with our culture pop, Beautiful Dreamer, here's a taste of what's to come in our next episode.
I think because of a Black feminist politic for me, and a radical Black feminist politic, that I have personally been in community with straight Black women who identified as feminists. So my lesbian identity was never viewed as they were not afraid of my lesbian identity. They did not allow that identity to create a wedge between them. So that's in terms of just my own personal life and just community, like in terms of Black feminist straight women who have influenced me and who have never asked me to choose between my sexuality and my Black feminist politic. With that shared, I do think that some of the challenges that come up are how lesbian identity can be used as a weapon, so that when women speak out, for instance, against patriarchy, against rape culture, then what gets used is, oh, well, you must be a lesbian, you must hate men. And, the rhetorical response from Black feminists, be it if they're straight or queer, and I'm very clear about the word radical, is that no, I'm anti-rape, I'm anti the oppression of women, and I'm about the liberation for all people.
Those words are from artist and activist Aisha Shahida Simmons. And this song, Beautiful Dreamer, is by me, Carolyn Malachi. Enjoy.
Somewhere there's a nothing, waiting to become something, fighting all the writing, hiding from the lightning. We are in the suburbs, racing to red lights, having close encounters far away from home. Beautiful dreamer, you're so beautiful. Beautiful dreamer, you're so beautiful. It's a never-ending story, dying for the glory, living through the pain. we've done and all that was won, the wisdom we hold, the stories untold. Stand in our power today.
Thanks for listening to Kitchen Table Talks, a podcast made possible by support from the Groundswell Fund, TD Bank Charitable Foundation, Craig Newmark Philanthropies, the Park Foundation, and anonymous donors. Our theme song, Unerased, features Latasha Brown on vocals and Glenn Pearson on piano. We had help from Levi Perrin, and special thanks to senior producer-editor Carolyn Malachi. In this episode, she shared her musical magic in the closing song, Beautiful Dreamer. I'm Gwen McKinney, creator of Suffrage Race Power, Black Women Unerased. Tune in to our Kitchen Table Talks and visit us online at srpunerased.com.